So for the trap bar deadlift, you're going to stand inside the middle of the trap bar. You're going to hip hinge back. Once again, I'm at my end range hip hinge. I'm going to sit my butt straight down. I'm going to have a relatively vertical shin, grabbing the middle of the bar, but I'm not going to pull from here. I need to remove the slack first. So what you'll notice, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop my hips down, almost, or backwards I should say, and then bring my chest up. If I were to let go of this, I'd almost fall backwards. I'm using this as a counterbalance as I drive my feet actively into the floor, even in the setup position. I'm thinking about squeezing an orange in between my armpits to keep my lats engaged. So from here, I'm going to push the floor away. Once my hands get to my knees, I drive my hips through. And then the way back down, I just do a hip hinge, butt goes back towards the wall. Once my hands reach my knees, I then sit down, but while keeping a vertical shin. Onto the conventional deadlift. Stance, again, if you're about to do a vertical jump, that's about how far you like your feet. When looking down from a bird's eye view, the bar should cover the knot in your shoelaces. So from here, you're going to do a hip hinge, so your hips go back, right? And then you're going to sit down with a vertical shin. You're going to grab the bar just outside your shins. So from here, you won't pull just yet because you need to remove the slack, and you'll do that by, again, dropping your butt down, bringing your chest up, and actively thinking about, again, driving your feet through the ground, even at the setup. So from here, I push the ground away. Once the bar gets to my knees, I'm going to bring my hips through. Again, and then the way down, I just reverse it. Hips go back like a good hip hinge. Once the bar gets to my knees, I'm going to sit my butt down, but again with a vertical shin. So for the sumo deadlift, your stance is going to be wide and your grip is going to be narrow. We're just going to kind of go off of just the easiest way to coach a sumo deadlift. So if you're working with Gen Pop or athletes, this is a simple way to kind of review the sumo deadlift. So in terms when it comes to your stance, you have these rings on the bar. It's kind of a good maybe starting point or rule of thumb to have your feet tucked underneath there. But obviously depending on levers, right, you might need to kind of adjust the stance accordingly, either a little wider or a little more narrow. Another way to kind of tell if you have a good stance in terms of your width is you need to be able to externally rotate your femur so your knee, right, can still track over your pinky toe. So again, if I go too wide, you can kind of see how my knees are pointing this way. That's almost inside my big toe. If I try to externally rotate my femur, I'm still in line with my big toe. So I need to narrow my stance a bit. So now when I externally rotate, my knee still tracks over my pinky toe. That way I know I can put some good force into the ground to complete the rep accordingly. So now that I have my stance set, my grip, and is this going to be about shoulder width apart? You might see some people that go a little more narrow, but I'm not the biggest fan of the most narrow grip because it's kind of hard to keep your upper back and lats engaged. So I just kind of go shoulder distance. So again, just like you would with the conventional or the trap bar in terms of the setup, reach your hips back, and then you sit your butt down. I grab, and then again to remove the slack, I bring my butt down, chest up. I drive with my legs. Once the bar gets to my knees, I bring my hips through. And then my hips go back, keeping the bar nice and close. Once the bar gets to my knees, I sit down while keeping a good vertical shin. Again, I'll show you that from the side. I get my stance, and again, I don't know if I mentioned this, but again, I'm just as close as I was to the conventional bird's eye view. I shouldn't be able to see my shoestrings here. I reach my hips back, and then I sit down. Right, butt goes down, chest up to remove the slack. Right, I'm driving my knees out as I push. Once the bar gets to my knees, hips through, and then hips back. Bar stays close. Once the bar gets to my knee, then I sit my butt down while keeping a good vertical shin.
Although this may seem like a lot to take in, the only thing that changed per variation was the grip, stance, barbell, and torso angle. The setup and movement itself are very similar across the board, i.e. the hip hinge, the lat involvement, driving through the floor, finishing with the hips, keeping the bar close, neutral spine, etc. Therefore, if you can coach one variation, then you can coach the others. Keep in mind there are other techniques when it comes to the deadlift, but in my opinion, this video covers the most basic setup, which is the easiest way to learn and coach the movement. Happy deadlifting!